I think you know that we've just completed our annual corporate directors survey.
Yep.
You know, there's been a lot of discussion around board renewal, around the composition of boards. So you've been serving in boards for well over 10 years now. So you've lived through Dodd-Frank coming into being while on a board. How have you seen boards change? How are they different today than they were when you were first on them?
Well, I think they are different today. One, they've got a lot more visibility today.
I think there's been a huge change in the makeup of boards. I mean, if you look at the diversity that's on boards today, it's certainly not where it should be, but it's certainly made, I think, significant steps in terms of that. There's a lot more, I think, give and take between management and boards today. And in some cases, boards have had to get active with investors. We certainly are seeing a lot more proactive involvement by boards today.
Do you think there is a challenge to find quality candidates?
But I think you're always looking for candidates that have a background you're looking for, but also give you the diversity that you're looking for in your board.
I was at a conference recently where one of the probably would be considered an activist shareholder and board member made the comment about sitting on a board, and they were looking for someone new, and the CEO said, well, you know, I think we need to fill this slot with a CEO. He said he looked around the room and there were already 4 CEOs on the board. And so he asked him, it's like, well, why do you want a CEO? And he's like, well, you know, I think it would be really good to be able to get that perspective. And so he said he then turned to the other 4 CEOs and said, just curious, when was the last time he called you and asked your opinion? And he said he went and each one is like, well, no, I don't think I can remember. And so and his point was, and so I then said, well, if you already got 4 of them here
and you're not calling
them, what's one more going to do?
I think you're comfortable if someone sat in the chair you are. So as a CEO, to have board members that have kind of been in that chair is a little more comfortable. And maybe they have experience in channels of distribution or international that you don't have, but I think that's why you're most comfortable with that.
So that's a great segue, because one of the other questions we asked in terms of getting to filling board seats is, where do you go to find your new board members? And over 90% said they looked to fellow directors for recommendations, 67% to search firms. What's been your experience on the boards and on the nom and gov?
I think in looking for a new board member, it is much like the process you'd go through if you were adding an executive to your executive team. You've got a certain set of skills and experiences you're looking for first. Then you look within your own company first. You then take those candidates and you vet them versus the new ideas you get from search firms.
What about evaluations, self-assessments? On the boards that you've been on, what's been your experience and how you evaluate how you're doing?
Well, you know, I think with all the focus on governance, I think the board assessment processes have gotten to be a lot more candid. And I think boards are really taking actions to say, okay, we're going to change the calendar and the agendas of some of our meetings to focus more time on the topics we think we should be spending more time on.
As a direct result of the assessments?
As a direct result of the assessments.
What about in terms of recruitment of new directors or who serves on what committees? Have you seen the evaluation process affect that?
I think the assessment process, you're more looking at your current board and how did you spend that time. In the nominating governance area, you're saying what skills do we need to add to that board. So I think they're a little bit different processes in most cases, I think.